morning, everyone. Welcome, in this case, to this Fonseca's Palace. Only 1 minute about this building. For us, it's a very special building because it's our most important venue of the university. This build was built by Alonso III of Fonseca, Bishop of Compostela, in the first years of the 16th century, shortly after the foundation of the university in 1495. And was the venue of the university since the first days until today. Always here in this building was university. And this is one of the most distinguished rooms. We use it for special events, doctorates or honoris causa, some special meetings like this, for instance. And I welcome all you to this, to the university and to this special place for us, that is this Fonseca Palace. You can see a inscription there, is Galaecia Fulget in Latin. Galaecia Fulget means Galicia bright, and shines, yes. And is written in the cloister of the building of the university, referred to the university. Galicia shines in part as consequence of the effects of the university, and was the lemma, the motive of our 5th centenary in 1995. Welcome everyone, and I hope the venue will be an important piece for the success of this second part of the Rectors' Assembly here in Compostela. Welcome. And I pass the presidency on Beatriz. Beatriz, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning to everybody, and a warm welcome from my side as well. First of all, thank you very much for hosting us here in this wonderful building. If Galicia shines, there is nothing to worry about, I would say. And if all of this comes from the university, even better. I guess that's the spirit we all have to have right now. Thank you also for the wonderful dinner last night and for this great, environment you placed us, you positioned us in. I think that was just really wonderful, and I just heard that everybody had a great time. So thank you very much again for your hospitality and for showing us around in your beautiful historic buildings of cultural heritage, of anything that is so important to this area, this region, and the university. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I'm going to open now the second part of our Rectors' Assembly, which is the open session. As we always do this, we have a closed one and an open session of the Rectors' Assembly, so with lots of participation now of the entire teams that are here, the students, of course. And the agenda for today is that we have a roundtable with the student executive team, the roundtable with associated partners, and then a coffee break, of course, with another group picture, and the universities and alliances in a time of global uncertainty, which we'd like to discuss as well. Now, this is how we do this. This will be a more interactive part with the roundtables. We will switch, or we will change the agenda a bit. We'll start with a roundtable with associated partners, moderated by Pasquale, and then move on to the roundtable with the student executive team. They also have prepared an input. It's the first time that we have really an agenda item for the Rectors' Assembly. Not that you think we never include the students. No, that's not the case. It's just that this time it's just very special. So we have that. That's the second part, and then the break, and then we'll start with universities and alliances in a time of global uncertainty. Then we close the Rectors' Assembly and move on to the EUniWell Europe Day celebrations as well at around 1, or at 1, I should say. So without further ado then, I would like to hand over to Pasquale now for the roundtable with associated partners. You will be the moderator, trying to get out all the concrete things we're going to do, and you'll introduce the panelists as well. That's your part. So we'll move. The floor is yours.
Okay, so good morning and welcome everyone to this roundtable on EUniWell's associated partner. We've brought together voices from universities and society to co-create the next steps. We are joined by Professor Giorgia Giovanetti, Vice Rector for Internationalization from the University of Florence, and 3 esteemed associated partners, Mauro Pellucchi, Mauro, from Lightcast, Eric Cardi, Deputy Mayor of Kalmar, and Maria Garmer, Commissioner and First Deputy Chair of Vecchio. I've been rehearsing. Right. So in this workshop, we will explore how partnership beyond academia can enrich EUniWell's mission. Right? To put you a bit on context, right? EUniWell 2030 envisions a platform where excellence meets engagement, where universities are not isolated citadels, but vibrant parts of society, with around 60 APs from across Europe, municipalities, hospital, businesses, and NGOs. Our APs are key to making well-being real, local, and impactful. Well, I would say we have divided this roundtable into a format of 3 rounds, and in each round we will have a question for each of our APs, right? And the first round will be positioned on the strategic vision, the framing of the big picture. So let's start by reflecting on how EUniWell's core focus areas, such as well-being, the European university model, and the building of inclusive communities, shape AP's vision and their role within the Alliance. So I'd like to start with Giorgia. Giorgia, how can EUniWell's well-being mission contribute to addressing Europe's major economic transition, such as aging population, digitalization, or inequality, while at the same time reinforcing the role of universities as drivers of inclusive growth? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Pasquale. First of all, I'm not an AP, but never mind, I'll be happy to become an AP as well.
She is an AP, a university representative.
But anyway, this is a very big question. The question to frame the set is actually a very difficult one. We have had many, many challenges since we started the adventure of EUniWell, and these challenges have become increasingly pressing, and they really threaten our well-being and as well as the economic prosperity. These challenges are not only complex, but they're also interlinked. So what does it mean? It means that if I address one challenge, I affect also the others, with consequences which are very difficult to detect. So EUniWell, of course, tries to address these challenges in a vision to putting together the different challenges. And I make some example because we need to account for the linkages. And it's very, very important to see how the linkages are. I make some example because Pasquale wanted me to be positive, concrete, whatever. Environment, health, well-being, for instance. We have been depleting natural resources and thereby threatening the availability to meet the availability of these resources to meet the need for the future generation. We have a very strong strain on resources. I want to be concrete. Let's consider water, for instance. The lack of water has very serious implications on food securities, on calorie intakes, on conflicts. What has EUniWell done? Has EUniWell dealt with this problem? Well, we've done some studies, and there are some proposal on how to save water in different things. For instance, through the circular economy, but there are other examples that we have been using, and I will use the example later. Or let's take aging. We discuss aging a lot. It's one of the main challenges. If I consider the old age dependency ratio, now, in 2025, we have 3.5 workers for one pensioner. This is data for the European Union, so on average for the European Union. Italy is even worse than that, but anyway. The estimates of the European Union for 2070 say that we have 2 workers for one pensioner. So it's a decrease of 43%, and this is between 2025 and 2070. So it's really in very few years. So this is really a pressing topic. What has EUniWell done? Studies, but also proposals. We saw yesterday, for instance, David presented the Age Well City seed funding project, where they had medical proposal to deal with the aging population. We have also done architectonical purposes. There are other incubator and seed funding which looked at the architectural side. For instance, how to make a city more livable for people which are older, how you make the barriers for disabled people and older people lower. So I think that basically, and I close here, for a better future, what we need is to reinvent a form of sustainable growth which is based on the understanding that the natural boundary conditions of the 21st century are very, very different from the previous one. So the changes have been dramatic. Not only a century, but even in 5 years or 4 years. Since COVID, we have really had dramatic changes. The war, the COVID, the pandemic, and so on and so forth. So we really have to take care of that, and we have to embody. And this means changing also the models that we have behind, because without changing the models, we are not able to do that. And I finish.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Georgia. Mauro, as an AP in this case, how do you see the value of university alliances like EUniWell in closing the skills gap between academia and the labor market, especially as new forms of work, AI, and data-driven decision-making reshape our society?
So first of all, thank you to permitting me to speak here today. And I think that we are an alliance of university, partners, students, and I think that one of the big values that we have is our diversity. We are coming from a different region, we are coming from a different domain, and of course we have different expertise. We saw yesterday during the visit in the different laboratories how we use technology to address the challenge that also Georgia mentioned a few minutes ago. And I think this diversity could be our real value in concrete action that we can put in the next month, in the next year, to try to improve the possibility of our students looking for a good job. Of course, what we need to do is try to translate this diversity in a concrete action under an union of university. I would like to use this union of university because I think that what we need to address the well-being needs, the competitiveness, the use of AI, the use of technology is a common governance under our alliance, and a common governance that can put this concrete action for the next year. I see 3 main possible topics where we can use our diversity. First of all, where we can use is to try to design interdisciplinarity and flexible learning. We spoke yesterday with the student, and we understood that what they are looking for is skill for more flexibility for the future. And of course, what we can do is try to suggest them, using data-driven insight, using our experience, some modular and flexible curriculum. For example, we know that we have students in psychology, in health, that could be interested in specific modular courses about AI governance, and could be of value for by your future. Of course, what we need to do is, I think, to engage students, civil society, industry in the co-design of our program. I think it's really important to try to understand what are the real skill need about our employers at the local level, and we need to speak with them. We know that University Alliance are a trusted place to do this topic, because we can use the University Alliance to engage the local region, the public stakeholder, the civil society, to speak about their needs, and then design this program for the future of our students. And the last, we are researcher, we are university, and we can do experiment. We can do experiment local level. We can design some indicators to measure the success or the not success of this experiment, and then we can test micro-credential, AI-focused bootcamp, hackathon, different way for our students to try to have new skill. And if these tests will have success at local level with our common indicators, we can scale them at European level. Because I think it's really important that we need to keep in mind that we are coming from research, and we can use our experience as a researcher to try to test, and if this works, scale.
Thank you, Mario. Turning now to Eric and Maria. I mean, you can answer as you like. I mean, from your work in local governance, how does the idea of well-being translate into tangible community priorities? Could you define some shared indicators across municipalities and universities that measure it together so that we can benefit from your experience? Yes? Feel free.
Yes, we will try to interact as good as possible. But thank you for having us here, because this is important for us to share our challenges and give us the possibility to meet people and maybe to find the solutions on our challenges. But regarding well-being, I would say it's for a municipality it's a basic value, because it's about our people living in our cities, in our villages. And if people don't live well, then we have problems as a municipality, because we are the last caretaker of people not doing well. And we discussed earlier when we had the questions about indicators and how can we measure and what can we do together. And of course, we are working a lot with this in our municipalities. And Maria, you have maybe some thoughts on that.
I could just add, first of all, thank you for having us. It's a lovely place to have an important meeting like this. We're speaking about measurability and indicators, and I think we need to continue working with the indicators we already have within areas that we have identified, and then see if we can add up and scale up those indicators, and not necessarily add new ones. I think there is room for indicators within the work we already do. In Växjö, we have a quite ambitious program called Sustainable Växjö. It's a program that includes the 3 dimensions of sustainability: social, environmental, and economic. We have, of course, indicators within that program, and I think we could find some common indicators there. But I think the most important thing is to find something concrete within the work we already do and scale up, and use the possibility to get experts from all around Europe. It's a very important time for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's very important that, this strategic work frame, so far, Georgia came up with the idea of interlinked challenges. So they're not individual challenges. Challenges are interlinked, and this makes them more complex. And this relates immediately with Mauro's approach, complex issues have to have complex solutions, and complex solutions sometimes goes through data or massive data, big data analysis, which takes us not just to sort of huge comprehensive solutions, but local solutions. So it's basically on local solutions. And this could give us hints about, for instance, the success of academia, in this case of study programs, and how reliable, how adapted they are to society and to the economic sectors. And regarding municipalities, I mean, it's very interesting because, I mean, you already have identified a number of indicators that are useful, and it would be nice to explore them in academia or with universities and see how far or how efficient they are. Okay, right, okay. Now, could we continue now to the second round of these questions? The second round is much more concrete. It's about collaboration and co-creation, so in a way getting practical. So let's shift now from vision to action. Now, in this round, we'll focus on turning ideas into collaborative initiatives that deliver real impact across sectors. Okay, and I would like to start again with Georgia. Georgia, what practical mechanisms, such as policy labs, joint observatories, regional foresight groups, could EUniWell use to connect academic research with real-time local needs across Europe? I mean, you already gave us a couple of hints, but could you deep a bit more in this issue?
Yeah. You also gave some hints now in the question, because you mentioned some ways, which are the policy lab, which are the research observatory, several of these things. Now, what I think about those initiatives is that they are very important, but the point is to make them operational. So the issue is how we make them operational. And many times when we have this type of meetings between academics and policymakers or something, you risk to waste the time of the policymaker and of ours. So we have to be very concrete. My position is that you need small groups of people which are committed. And that's very important, because if they're not committed, so they are specialists of the issue, but also they are committed. And also, so you have to have a small group of selected researchers, which is in touch with the local authorities or with the industries or the firms or whatever. And I think it is also important, and here I speak to Sarah, to have the involvement of students, even in these groups. And students are usually not in this type of observatory and labs, because this is something for academic, for researcher, for assessed researcher. And I think, however, the student could give a different view, can open to the future. So it will be very important to have some students which actually are able to engage. I think yesterday during our market experience, whatever it was, one of the students mentioned, I studied something, I wanted to do politics, but I'm very far from having an idea what it means. So this will be to actually start doing something, looking at the problem from a different point of view. And I think the presence of the student will be very important. The other thing is something that Mauro mentioned now, which is the importance of flexibility to adapt to a changing environment. So we have a model of a lab which maybe worked well 10 years ago. That model should be changed to adapt to the situation. It's not that we can repeat always these type of things. The last part, and I close, is that we should communicate our studies. What does it mean to communicate the studies of the academia? To a certain extent, it means to translate in simple words our theoretical studies. That is very difficult, but it's really needed if you want to have a contact with the territories and you want to have really a role of a civic university to a certain extent. If we are not able to translate into simple words what we study, it's not going to reach people. It may reach one person, two persons, but it's actually not going to reach. And therefore, even the consequences of those studies are not going to be implemented. So I think this is very important. I did an experiment several years ago with the European Commission. I was doing a report, which was a European report on development. And I mean, my idea as a development economist was to invite all the big names. So I had Nobel Prize, big names coming to conferences. And the people of the commission were looking at me, well, why on earth are you doing these things so theoretical? And then I said, okay, let's have something concrete. So at the end of a big theoretical conference, important conference on topics which were at the time were conflicts actually, see countries in situation of fragility and conflict in sub-Saharan Africa, then I will have organized a round table with the same professor asking them, now, can you translate into 3 sentences the main point of your paper in a language that is understandable for general public? And that things worked a lot, because then for us it was very easy to write the policy conclusion and to be in touch. And it was very easy also for the politicians that were there to use what we had as a policy conclusion.
Thank you. Mauro, what would you like, how would you actually co-design a pilot initiative if you were to approach this issue with EUniWell, for instance? So if you were given the task to develop a pilot for, say, the next 6 months, how would you proceed? How would you organize your work together with us?
So thank you for the question. My background is engineering, so I need to be a little pragmatic, because of course we can co-create something, co-design something, and I think it is, if I have only 6 months, the effort should be on the student, because they are the heart of any type of skill strategy for the future. And of course, I am an engineer, so I'm coming from a data company, and I need to put the focus on data, AI to solve this challenge. So the idea could be create a sort of GPS navigator for the student. Georgia mentioned that yesterday we spoke with the student, and what they mentioned it is that often they are looking for the university program to have more skill, but they don't have any idea about what they will do in the concrete labor market in the future. So, of course, what we can create is a sort of GPS navigator to help them to understand what are the concrete opportunity, let me to say, more good opportunity that they could have in their local market. Because in this case, they can understand what are the skill set required by the employers, the skill set required in the different markets, and maybe they can discover that with their program, they can apply to different type of job title that are maybe not related to their first idea. And of course, to try to design in 6 months this type of initiative, we need to do it with the student, with the career service of university, because the career service has the experience to do it. We need to design something that is, let me to say, open to everyone. Okay, it means that it not be something closed, but open to any type of student, and also by design. It means accessible with desktop, laptop, smartphone to every single student. So we need to start with different round of design to test what is the right solution for them. And of course, we need to use AI to try to do it, because with artificial intelligence, we can discover maybe something that is not so clear in the data, not so clear in our program, and we can suggest more opportunity to our student. We need to use AI transparency, so we need to inform them what we are doing, we need to inform them how we use AI, because only in this way we can engage really the student to use this type of toolkit.
Thank you, Mauro. I like the ideas of bottom-up approach, local, open, easy accessible, and implication of the people or the instrument which is going to be analyzed. Thank you. As for Eric and Maria, could your municipalities benefit from joint training or learning programs developed with EUniWell universities, for instance, on climate resilience, youth engagement, or inclusive urban planning?
Yes. Should I continue?
Could you
would like me to say something?
be more explicit?
Yes, yes, we can. But I think we spoke about policy making, and what we need to do is to make it more operational, because a municipality is extremely operational. Policies, we need them, but that's on a decision-making level. But when we are working out in the organization, it has to be very, very operational. And but of course, I think it can be, we really could benefit. And as I said yesterday, think EUniWell, act locally. So we have to adapt it to the local level.
Yes, I mean, I agree that we need to find some concrete missions within those areas that we can present for this project, but also for our municipality. I think for the municipality, this partnership is interesting in all of our areas. I mean, we have to develop, and it's through collaboration we can gain access to expertise that we don't have and develop ourselves in the municipality. But I would like to return to the topic of sustainability. I think for Växjö, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We have this advisory board or climate council that today consists of researchers from Linnaeus University. But also in our program in Växjö, we have a goal that we want to include young people and our young citizens in this work and take the advantage of their ideas and their drive. And I think that not necessarily need to be young people in Växjö. It could include students and all of EUniWell. So maybe we could find something concrete. We could perhaps look at adding students to this program and this climate council in some way.
Okay, thank you. I think, Eric, you wanted to add
Yes,
something?
and to be more specific, one area that is important for us as well is healthcare, and we are transforming from hospital care to, I don't know the word exactly in English, but close care, primary care maybe perhaps. And I think that's something that in a EUniWell context could be very, very interesting because we have all different systems. And then if we can merge and find the best solutions or some kind of mix.
Okay, thank you. No, it's interesting because here is where academia splits from politics.
Yes.
This is a bottom-up and this is a top-down approach.
Yeah.
So we have first the policymakers' policies, then you develop your operational, and then you get into. But one thing is for sure, I mean, there is this communion, this synergy, which is needed by the municipalities as well, which is the research, and particularly in this case of EUniWell. Right, so just to wrap up very quickly about this second round, I would just say that, well, Georgia, she made a strong focus on operational. She said that, well, at universities we make many proposals, but sometimes they're not operational. And she stresses on the idea of the small groups. Well, we call it in EUniWell acceleration teams, right? They are very efficient, right? And it's very important that you make a neat and clear selection of the composition of these acceleration groups, not just selected researchers, but also, and this is very important in the context of academia, to involve students, right? So students' commitment is prime. She has made a strong emphasis on research, on the value of research, not on the value of research itself, but on how we communicate to society research. Sometimes we use this very complex wording, which doesn't take us anywhere. So she suggested to translate sort of deep research developed in Italian or Spanish professors into a plain language that is easily accessible to all of them, right? And just very briefly on Mauro and Eric and Maria, I mean, you've seen here different approaches, but what makes it very clear is that there is a strong dependency in the case of Mauro of having subjects which behavior you're going to analyze and going to research, right? And in your case, the subjects are the ultimate beneficials of your policies that has been worked together with the academia, right? Now let's move to the third round. The third round is much more focused now on the future we want, so aspirations and commitment. So let's try now to look ahead, to have a clear goal, define concrete next steps. I'm going to ask you next steps. So this may be targeted collaborations or broad-based actions involving all partners, institutions. So you can choose whether you like to sort of local solutions or sort of comprehensive big solutions, right? I'll start with Georgia. Now, stepping into your university, what concrete steps could your university take, such as piloting a knowledge transfer hub or hosting a multi-stakeholder foresight forum Now, what actions or steps could be taken to strengthen EUniWell's collaboration with its civic and regional partners?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say something different, which is Pascal has been convinced my answer to the second question, because he was translating to you what we had said. So you have done exactly this, translating in general public word what we were saying. So I'm very happy about that. Now let's speak about the concrete step.
Sorry, I'm a linguist.
Exactly. So that's why we need so many linguists in EUniWell. Let's take concrete step. Of the University of Florence. I'm going to give 3 examples of things that we have done or are doing, but they could be scaled up and thought for the future and also enlarged at other university level. The first one, and this interests Eric and Maria, is we have been, as University of Florence, very much, the local authorities in Florence, the mayor of Florence, organized an internationalization table, or a lab, if you want, where we had the local authorities, we had university, but also firms and other actors. And what we did is we share studies, we share information, and we decided about what to do with in mind the well-being of the Florentine. What are the issues we dealt with? Some of them have been solved, some of them are discussed now, some of them will be solved eventually. One was the mismatch of the labor market. And this is obviously not solved, but we have done some studies at the local and regional level to look what is the mismatch at the, so the data that Mauro was describing yesterday at the level of Florence and the Tuscan region. The problem of sustainable tourism, obviously not yet solved in Florence, which is a problem we really share with Santiago, for instance, which is the number of people, the fact that this has a lot of implication for university in terms, for instance, of housing for students, the price of the housing, and a lot of other things connected to that. Circular economy, for instance, putting in place a plastic strategy, banning all the non-recyclable plastic. This is something which has been done. Sustainable mobility, bicycle incentive, and things like that. And here I speak about some concrete examples that University of Florence has implemented. One is called Unifi Pedals, and basically the University of Florence has bought several kits which have been freely distributed between staff and students. These kits apply to bicycle, certify the use of the bicycle. So they tell you what kind of road you do, how many kilometers, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to incentivize the use of bicycle, but without a real incentive, it was difficult to do it. So what we're doing is we give an incentive, which is not large. It's 20 cents per kilometers on outward or return journey from university. And if you go also between the different location of universities, 5 cents per kilometer in the center, with a maximum of 30 euro per month. Well, the 500 kits have been already used. This started in February, but so far, there is despite the rain that we've had this year in Florence, there was a very large use of these kits. It's not much, but it's already something that you can try. The other thing is an initiative which is called Climate Smart Dining, which was done together with a Stanford University study abroad program in Florence. And this is basically was really aimed at creating a better future for the planet, because the food plays a really critical role in a climate change. And so the climate smart dining applies to everything from the ingredient that have to be 0 kilometers. And then if you want to be larger, and this is something that we have not done yet in Florence, but in Stanford they're doing at the moment, is to build in a different way, to be in a more, the building designed in a way which is ecologically saving, decision about the energy use and things like that. Of course, we have done some decision about the energy use. So you have all these things connected, the meals, the buildings, the energy, and so on and so forth. So what we did at the University of Florence, and I think this could be scaled up and enlarged, is a pilot on food on the sourcing, 0 kilometers, but also on how many CO2 emission you can save if once a week you have a no-meat meal in the canteen in university, because the number of meals in the canteen of university is very large, so you actually save, there was a computation that I couldn't find this morning when I was looking at these examples, but I will find it and I can show you the computation because it was very interesting to do it. But also the serving and the recycling. And here, the importance of cross-campus collaboration and cross-institution collaboration for the recycling, because 20% of the food we use is usually lost. And this is something which shouldn't be done if we are careful about these kind of things.
Thank you, Giorgia. Mauro. Now, so what concrete, in your case, what concrete initiative could Lightcast as a co-lead, for instance, with EUniWell, drive forward to skills development and regional innovation, and what specific support of collaboration would make it possible?
Okay. So let me to react to a couple of keywords that you used, the regional level and the skill development. And so it was not prepared, but before Eric and also Giorgia used the term lab to try to suggest policy, to try to present the policy lab, the indicators and so on. What we can do is to share our expertise about skills intelligence project, because we are doing it since more than 10 years now. And of course, what we can propose are skills intelligent lab, where we can use our data, where we can use our expertise, our technology, to try to map the skill trend at the local level, try to suggest what are the skills for the future and suggest what are the occupation, using real-time data combining with local data, because of course local data are important. And of course what we can share is our expertise. We are already working in some similar project with UNESCO. We will launch our global skill tracker on 10 regions in July, next July, to support vocational training, in this case, on this topic. We are working since 2014 with CEDEFOP, the European Agency about Vocational Training, to try to suggest at European level what are the skill trends, and we are working with the CDOX in Paris about the future of work inside the various skill outlook. So what we can share is our expertise, our AI model to do it, but of course we need an help, because so we have the data, we are an expert about the technology, but of course what George and also Eric mentioned before are challenges about circular economy, green technology, AI and big data, and you are economists, we have a lot of economists here, and I think you know very well that these are not economic sector in our standard taxonomy. If I watch the European data from Eurostat, I will not find the circular economy sector, I will not find automotive, aerospace. So what we need is your help as an alliance with the diversity of cross-domain, cross-region, to try to engage local partner, local university, student, civil society that work in this context, so expert about the circular economy that can help us to try to extract from the data what are the insights. Because I repeat, we have the technology, but we need your help to try to read the data and suggest them what are the policy in action for our administration, for our policymaker. We need your help to try to read the data and suggest to the student, so the help of the career service, because I repeat, this type of sector that are the challenge for the future are not present in the standard data that we have. And we didn't help to define how to read this data.
Okay, thank you, Mauro. I think before I go to Eric and Maria, Georgia, you know, she can't resist, and she asked me for 10 seconds. So yes, of course.
Now, I wanted to say something about what Mauro was saying, which I think could be actually of interest also for Eric and Maria. That's why I say it here. We have been using for study purpose some of the data that Mauro and Lightcast have provided. And what we did is two type of correlation, let's putting together some relationship. One is with European funding, and the other one is with internal migration. And I think that, for instance, for the local authorities to connect a research on skills with internal migration can actually be very interesting. So I think there is a lot to be exploited along the line that Mauro was mentioning, but we have 2 examples that, of course, we did for the Toscan regions, but could be enlarged for all the other regions.
Thank you. Right. Now, Eric and Maria, as for the future, I mean, I don't know if you have targeted so far a pilot with universities, but if so, I mean, would you prefer to focus on your specific municipality needs, for instance, youth well-being or housing, or would you also consider Alliance at EUniWell as a broad initiative, so see what are they doing, can we apply this to ours, so vice versa, right? Okay, what drives your choice?
A lot of things, so it's both, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to be very specific.
Do you have any example, any cases, any evidences or so far?
With the EUniWell, or
in general, with academia, yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of projects and in cooperation with the Linnaeus University. But I think sometimes we have a certain problem that we need to address very quickly and to solve. And I'm thinking how to use Linnaeus and also the EUniWell context. For example, like, do we want a smorgasbord where we can pick where all are joining, or should we be more strategic and have just a few partners and then solve a problem? For example, like AI that Mario mentioned is, I think all of us, all organizations, all municipalities now are struggling with the same thing. Mobility, for example, is maybe some municipalities, they have their own projects and they are going. Some other municipalities, they need to solve a certain problem. I don't know if I answered your question, but
I have to say that the question was a bit tricky because
yes.
I wanted to see if you knew something more about EUniWell.
Yes. I think we have. I don't know. I can't
answer during the coffee break.
Yes, because I have to. I mean, I don't know what's happening in the organization as a whole. So, but I know that there are some. I will ask Peter in the coffee break.
Yeah, which evidence is actually that we need to spread along also with our partners and communicate them what we do so that they know exactly how we can help and they could be helped. Right? Okay, Maria, any?
Yeah, I think in a broad collaboration or in a target topics, we need to find. You talk about small groups. I think that's probably the most important thing, that we find an easy way to communicate, and I think we need small groups. If it's too broad, probably it could be difficult in a municipality to actually, I mean, get the people working with this program to have the time. I mean, they need a specific topic, I think. But as I said before, this is an opportunity for us to have expertise in all areas. So I wouldn't say it's either broad or small. The most important thing is that we can find a way to have an easy communication, I think, with decision makers at university and the people working in the municipality and also our citizens. But we were talking yesterday a bit about students, internships, programs. And we already have programs today. We have internships and between the municipality and Linnaeus University, and I think that's something we could scale up and work with EUniWell. We also have part-time researchers in Växjö in the area of social science that work part-time in the municipality and do research at the university. So I think that's could be interesting, something we could work on. So, as I said before, continue on existing programs and scale up and use the expertise in EUniWell, I think.
Yep, thank you. I think, Eric, do you want you to edit something?
Yes, I think, as Maria mentioned, all of us in this room, we love international cooperation. when we are going back home in the organization, we have some challenges. Because some people are afraid it's a language issue and so on. And that is something we must work with. And therefore also, I mean, the good examples, they are very best practice is, of course, always very good. So I like the Florence smorgasbord with different things. So I think we have, that's one thing we have to work with, to find the committed people and to really point out this is really beneficial for our organization and also for the person working with it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Did we answer your question?
Absolutely.
Tricky question.
Absolutely, love it.
Translation.
I'll translate in a second. Just to wrap up the final round, okay, as for the concrete steps and how to move forward. I mean, Georgia, she came up with the ideas of the different labs they have developed, and her actually proposal is to upgrade these previous experiences, right? Using some kind of incentives or, in plain language, tricks to trick people around so they don't know what you're looking for, but it seems attractive to them. But to upgrade existing experiences, not just to leave them there, die out, right? Mauro focused very much on to open up, right, a broader scale of communication with academia, because they have experience, they have expertise, but they need feedback from academia, and they need also challenges, and this is something that just society or specifically academia can provide. Yes. And finally, Eric and Maria, I mean, of course, they are much more interested in specific goal and specific issues, so they actually prefer to focus on targeted pilots and specific topics, right? And also in the idea of upscaling existing programs and initiatives they already have, right? And they also have evidence that we need to push our lines a bit further and, you know, show people what we do, municipalities, our partners, so they are much more aware of our commitment. So thank you very much for your inspiring and forward-looking discussions. So this is not the end of the round table. This is the beginning, sorry. Graham, you can sit. Yeah, we were just going to start again, right? But now it's the point where we must share our vision and our shared responsibility. We heard strong interest in piloting skill-based training programs under the union. We heard very strong interest on the municipalities on being more engaged in civil engagement modules. We heard about how academia is actually interacting and how they can scale up. So several of the proposed launched joint research or community engagements can actually end up in hubs or labs or whatever. So as we close, I invite you to carry on this momentum forward. Wherever representing a university or NAP, connect, please, initiate a proposal, be the spark in your institution or region. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Pasquale and also to all of our panelists. We're going to move quickly on to the next panel, which is a roundtable with the student executive team. So if Miklos Kalamaya can come up as the moderator, and then he can introduce the panelists. 45 minutes, is it fine? 45 minutes.
So welcome everyone to this session, this roundtable session on the student executive team. Aren't you coming up to the? Please, I am inviting first of all Sarah Bermann, Chief Student Officer of EUniWell from the University of Cologne, Panna Jamtoki, member of the student executive team from Semmelweis University, and also members of this panel discussion are Rector José Luan Alcaraz from Murcia, and Peter Aronson from Linnaeus University. I invite you to join me for this discussion. No specifics, yeah, just around the table. It's no exaggeration, I think, that, and you would all agree that the purpose and mission of all our universities are focused on students. After all, they are the hope for the future. They are basically the key to not only to a worn-out sustainability concept, but also the development, intellectual development of our universities and our communities. So it's no wonder that we must have a session focusing on them and introducing the student executive board and the team. And ever since the implementation and the starting of EUniWell, they have been important members, and they are part of our governance. And just recently, less than half a year ago, we rediscussed and reinvented, in a way, our governance, and we expanded the role for students. In fact, now the number of student members in our board has been increased, basically by 30%. That represents actually the expansion of the whole EUniWell, but also our focus on students also. So this panel discussion will revolve around student issues, and in a way which is slightly different from the prior panel discussion, we'll start with an introduction by the students themselves, giving us an overview, a presentation, which will give you an idea, food for thought, so you can think about questions and problems that you want to bring to the floor yourselves. Therefore, I now invite Sarah and Pana to deliver your presentation. Please.
Thank you very much, Miklos. So, hello to everyone, dear rectors, dear vice rectors, dear institutional coordinators, dear board members, dear student board. I'm very happy that you're also here, and dear associate partners. It's a pleasure speaking to you today. And Pana, myself, and I, we're going to have the pleasure to present to you a short presentation on student engagement within the Alliance and beyond. So we want to introduce ourselves a bit more in the beginning, and also the student board and what we do. And then when thinking about this presentation, we orientated ourselves a lot with the EUniWell 2030 strategy framework. So that's where the points like engaging across Europe, strengthening the student experience across the Alliance, as well as building local communities where well-being comes from.
The EUniWell Student Board is the highest level governance and decision-making body of the students, and it's an integral part of the EUniWell governance structure. The student executive team, consisting of the chief student officer and 2 other board members, represents the student voices in every central governance body. Our mission is to make higher education, the acquisition of knowledge, and a European feeling accessible to as many students as possible, while voicing their concerns and ideas. We see us as a multiplier factor for communication for the wider student population of our 11 partner universities. One of our tasks is to develop, co-create, and critically evaluate ideas within the Alliance.
So, looking at engagement across Europe, and I mean, you get it, that we're not engaging now within the Alliance only, but expanding our engagement slowly. That's why, since February 2025, we're a proud member of the European Students' Union now. And representing almost 20 million students in Europe, ESU is an important platform to connect beyond our Alliance and also ensure that the voices of EUniWell students are represented across Europe. So when thinking about the idea of pursuing a membership in ESU, we thought about multiple benefits that we could also have from it. So one of it also is that ESU has a close and impactful collaboration with the European Commission. And I think yesterday in our session, we really pointed out that this can help us in various ways, while being in uncertain times as we are right now, and also fighting for academic freedom over this channel, for example. So ESO plays a central role in shaping Europe's higher education policy, and they give us access to important decision-making processes and the ability also to contribute to the development of policies that affect students across Europe. So another benefit that we hope to get from this collaboration is that in addition to its political and advocacy role, the ESO offers an exceptional framework for experience sharing and mutual learning. We hope that we can exchange ideas and good practices, and also enabling members to learn from one another's successes and challenges. Looking at our alliance on this matter, we think that we can use the opportunity to share EUniWell's innovative and forward-thinking approach regarding student engagement, because let me tell you, we're one of the leaders in this matter actually, and we hope to showcase general achievements on a broader stage here. We hope to get the chance to influence the evolution of student governance and well-being, and also well-being initiatives across Europe. So that's why we are now pursuing to ESO being an associate partner of EUniWell, and that's also why we're very happy that we have one of the members of ESO here with us during those days. And based on our relatively young but still very positive experiences with this membership, we also think that in the future we could enhance our network across Europe even more, and we would like to focus on strengthening the collaboration with other European networks, such as the European Erasmus Student Network, ESN. So we believe that together we can continue to advance our shared commitment to student well-being, active participation, and the future of higher education across Europe.
One of the Alliance's ground beliefs and a crucial part of our EUniWell 2030 strategy is that students are seen as the next generation of researchers and educators. That's why students are a part of the Alliance's central elements, such as development of education, research, and civic engagement, and initiatives such as the School Ambassador Program. We as students are also able to contribute actively to the seed funding call, where we're engaged to develop our own projects closely connected to the thematic arenas. The student experience also includes joining several academic and mobility opportunities, such as international courses, or joining international conferences, such as the European Student Assembly. In building local communities for well-being, student participation and local engagement have been central pillars of the EUniWell's Alliance mission to enhance well-being across partner universities. Local student boards spread across our partner universities are crucial for promoting synergies and driving well-being initiatives at an institutional level. EUniWell believes that networking formats and bottom-up initiatives empowers students to take lead in co-design and co-implementation of actions, and local communities should guarantee and have the active and continuous participation of over 300,000 students. At most universities, local student boards were built, which are fully student-led and organize different events and offers students on campus, such as art and mental health, workshops, sports events, and many more.
Building local communities for well-being also means that the active and regular participation of all member universities is essential to the proper functioning of the student engagement in our alliance, but also for building those local communities. That means that to ensure this, the EUniWell Student Board decided last year on a strategy that makes student engagement more sustainable on all operational levels across the alliance. That means, in concrete, that together with the student engagement officer, the student executive team will visit each partner university step by step during the next few months, and we will make a mapping locally and see how student engagement is going, maybe if there are challenges, and how to develop a strategy that is good for everyone. Our aim with that is to develop a structure that guarantees the active and continuous participation of all institutions within EUniWell. So far, we visited universities like Murcia, Constance, Cologne, and Linares, and had a look at them, and also had a very effective collaboration there already. Though, student engagement faces several challenges, and while establishing local communities for well-being, we think that EUniWell does not reach enough students as of now. We need to increase our visibility on the campuses in order to motivate more students to participate in our mission. Also, we need to start implementing common standards to measure that and measurements that enable a consistent student engagement across the Alliance. We know also that there is a diversity of legal, organizational, and governmental structures that make this process very difficult. This is also why we are fully prepared to collaborate individually, as said, with each partner university to find an optimal solution that fits their local context. We know that there is not a one-fits-all model. Lastly, looking at challenges, we have to say that an imbalance of institutional involvement slows down the development of local well-being communities and student engagement in general. Only through the consistent involvement of every institution can the Student Board operate effectively and make a meaningful contribution to the work of the Alliance. And let me tell you, this is what we really want. We want to be a part. We are a part, and we want to strengthen our role in that. A fragmented or irregular participation weakens our ability to act as a united student voice, and therefore it is necessary that each university commits to establishing mechanisms that ensure their students' representation in the EUniWell Student Board, but also engaging in EUniWell's governance processes. If we fulfill that, and I know that we will, it will just take some time, we have the opportunity to lead by example and set a new standard for student involvement in higher education governance, not only within our Alliance EUniWell, but also across Europe. And maybe, as I've also learned yesterday again, let me end on a positive note though. So let me quickly give you a recap of our work we had here during the last few days as a student board. And I really have to point out that it went so well. I'm so happy, and I think the whole set is very happy with how everything went. We had a very productive meeting on Monday morning, which was always really nice to see each other in person, but we also developed some ideas now and discussed some things. But also during yesterday's Associate Partners meeting, I think it got clear that students played a crucial role in the discussions regarding every matter, I think, and that's really just because the Student Board did such a great job here. So I really want to say thank you to you guys as well, because we couldn't do that without you. So in the end, let me tell you, thank you for your attention, and we're looking forward to the panel discussion now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. I think we can be certainly proud of our students. This was a clear indication of how proud we must be of them. I think this overview and the summary gave every one of us a very rich food for thought. Just to extend beyond that, and I invite all of you to think and contribute to this session, and I'll particularly invite our student members here present in this room, in this audience, to just raise your hand, and I think there will be a microphone to be put around, placed around, and then just be courageous and brave enough to ask or make comments. Just to enhance that, I cannot help articulating my conviction that the age-old concept of university lies in universitas unity between teachers, mentors, and students. And I think the reason behind it is that they both want the same thing. They want to be role models in one or the other way, in an intellectual way, in a mental way, in a behavioral way, in an ethical way. So I think that's a key element in my personal conviction, and I invite you to just relate to that and just think about it and whether you agree with this and how that might be related to this very dynamic and forthcoming activity that our students are involved in EUniWell. So having said this, I just like to initiate this discussion around this roundtable and approach Jose first with my question. Now, we often see that the dynamics, what I might call the turnover of students, is a challenge. While they contribute in a very dynamic way, but they are also, there's a dynamism of their turnover. The way we would put it in medicine, the cohort is dynamic because some patients come in, some patients go out. Students come in, students go out after 3 to 5, 6 years. So how do you see, how do you assess, how do you address this challenge in Murcia? Or what might be your recommendations for the Alliance?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I think I feel, especially in this room, it's amazing to be here. I was here 30 years, for first time in my life, 30 years more or less, in a very important ceremony in which the University of Santiago done the maximum recognition of Doctor Honoris Causa to Don Manuel Alonso Lea, one of the most important laboralists in Europe, not only in Spain. So for me, it's amazing to be here after the years. And second, as you say, I am proud about the conscience of our students for the project that is representative for EUniWell and the complete project for the universities in Europe. It's great to realize the responsibility, the way in which our students have a compromise with this project. This is I feel very proud of our students. I always want to say another reflection. Maybe it's important, as Marcel said yesterday, it's important to believe in things that we do. It's important to believe in the idea of EUniWell. It's important to share our conviction, our ideas, our goal, our aims. It's important to believe in the idea that the universities is the space in which students improve, in which students have the possibility to search a place in the line. Universities exist because students exist. Since the Middle Age till these days, the students are the core of our universities. So they have to be in the center of our issues. The second idea is the importance that Europe has in our life, not only as a universities, but people who live in this time. Europe is a project with a large future, and we need to work for assure that future, especially from the universities. And we need to live in the idea of well-being. Well-being is not a word. Well-being is a concept, an idea. Well-being is one of the key, or maybe the most important key, in the definition of the identity of Europe. Well-being is health, is liberty, is democracy, is dignity. So we have the opportunity to work, to fight from EUniWell, from our alliance, in direction to the center, to the core, to the heart of the Europe, and the Europe for the entire world. So we have the opportunity, the extraordinary opportunity to collaborate around this important idea in the center of the heart of the Europe. Say that how answering the concrete question, how we can assure that this feeling about Europe and about our role in Europe have been preserved for the future. The modern university have different facilities, options, in order to engage our student for the complete life, not only by master, the doctorate, but especially we need to develop the idea of long life learning. Modern university is not an institution. We provide studies for young people between 18 to 14, 50, 22, 24, 25 years. A modern university have to provide studies for every people in whatever age the people has. So we have an important goal ahead. Maybe I think we have we have the ability to gain that goal.
Thank you, Jose. So the keywords are responsibility, pride, faith in our mission, European values, and of course, expansion towards lifelong learning. Thank you very much. Peter, I direct my attention to you now. We have heard it, I think, each and every day that we are committed. EUniWell is committed to, one of our commitments is to become and be a or the voice for well-being. The question is still not decided yet, but I think both are very forceful. So how do you see yourself as and being a rector, how do you see the students' role in this kind of commitment? That is, how can they enhance our commitment of becoming either a or the voice for well-being?
Thank you so much. I will start with your first reaction too. Wow, what an engagement and competence among students. And also remind us of that we are all a very dynamic cohort. In life, of course, but also as rectors. You are there for a couple of years and you stand on the shoulders of others. So that's why my very general answer is that how to work here is to take the long-term institutional culture of the academy seriously, but also the need to reassure its relevance in each time. And I think that we are actually doing that, and I thought we got a really interesting experience on Monday when a couple of us were visiting Choose France in Paris when Ursula von der Leyen and the president of France restated, I think, what you also mentioned, the sort of totality of the academic endeavor and its meaning for society and development. And I think we need to take that seriously and remind both ourselves and the students and the politicians that it is a total package. We need the academic freedom there. We need to have a sensitive view of what challenges we live with today. And in between that are the teachers and the students. So that's the link to bring the knowledge out and to make a difference. And I think beyond the sort of geopolitical things, we have sort of a long-term challenges that I think needs to be taken seriously by the university. Of course, it's also the climate change, but I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about the changing landscape of how knowledge is being transformed and distributed. So sometimes we feel that AI is going to resolve or threaten, whatever side you are, the conventional place of learning, which is the university. But I think, I trust a little bit, I'm an historian, so I trust a little bit the experience of how the academy met the first challenge, the first was perhaps print at all. You know, before that, we could just sit here and read because the books were too expensive. But the second one was cheap print. So in the early 19th century, that was a real threat. Now everyone could buy a book. Why should you come to a lecture and just listen? And the answer to that was the research university, invented in Germany by Humboldt and the Berlin University. And that's where we all are now. So we are dynamic places of making knowledge and having a dialogue. And I think that will continue because, at least in my view, IT and the internet is very cheap print and very accessible print, but it's nothing else. Maybe AI is something else. I haven't experienced it yet. We are still playing around, having some views of it, but I still know that the human complexity, because we are not only sort of cognitive, if we were only computers, we are people. We need other people. We need culture. We need a social setting. And that is what the university can provide. And we need to take that more seriously. I think we are sort of taking away more computers from our university now and try to bring in sort of the meeting at the campus, also with the help of IT, of course, because you can interact in more ways. But I think to take the full potential of students as humans into account is good for attractivity, but it's also necessary actually for good learning and good decision making, because you don't come to a job and only with your skills, with your sort of curricular skills. You come also with your skills on how to deal with people, difficult people sometimes, nice people other times, but you have to form teams and you have to know how to work with that. And it's very complex, and we can't put it all in writing because it needs judgment. It needs, So I think that's the way really to open our mind a little bit from the sort of bureaucratic and quality assurance and all that, and try to keep in mind the sort of idea of the university as a meeting pot, which with open-ended purposes. Things are happening here. And of course, all this is threatened by all these, as you noticed, the financial issues, that we get less and less money for education each year. So we need really to involve also students who are, at our university we say, as in Sweden and in Europe mostly, education is free. It's not. You put in, you take student loans or whatever, and you put in your time, and roughly it equals what we get from the state or over, it could be even more. So we need to assess that as you are working with us. You put in your time and your expertise and your engagement, and we need to use that more, I think, to make it valuable to come to the university and not just sort of as a customer coming there to be fed with knowledge. Yeah, I think I stopped there.
Thank you, Peter. So we heard some keywords like long-term institutional culture and the ever-present need to be able to translate it to actual times. And I would relate back to what Georgia said about to do it in a simple way, in a 3-sentence way, right? Also the transition from a Gutenberg galaxy to an AI galaxy, I guess. It's in front of us, evolving, and that poses extra challenges. Now, let me direct my attention now to the students, either Sarah or Panna. In your last slide, which cast a vision toward the future and the challenges. So I would like to a little bit expand on that. I would like you to expand on this a little bit. I could phrase it in a way that what's the SWOT analysis of the student organization? Just what do you see currently as the strengths and the opportunities and threats, probably, maybe the weaknesses also, and why could you embed it into what EUniWell offers? What kind of, EUniWell Alliance, what kind of opportunities that gives you as the student representatives? So maybe, Sarah, you begin?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe first let me come back to what you said, actually, because you raised a very important point. Because we are also, as a student board, saying that we need more incentives for students to engage with EUniWell. As you said, we need not only to make university itself more interactive, but also engaging in an alliance and a mission like this. So we need incentives, and we have concrete ideas for that. Of course, as you said, we're talking financially here, because of course it's important. Everything's getting more expensive for students, so when they're engaging, they kind of also should have the benefit of getting something financially from it. But we also, and I think that's what Giorgio mentioned yesterday already, we need to point more out that even there are some other incentives that are important, for example, getting skills out of EUniWell. So there's a lot we are taking as student representatives out of this. We said yesterday that there's so much that we are learning, and also, Miklos, that's closely connected to your question. So what are the benefits from an engagement? It is that you learn skills that normally you wouldn't maybe in your studies, and you are well prepared in order to have a function later on and use them in the real life. And also, going back what you said, Miklos, I think one of the major benefits from EUniWell is that we use the term labor often now during those days, but I think EUniWell is also like a laboratory for us and for policy innovation. And in conversation, it always comes up that EUniWell gives students a possibility to take on own responsibilities and be responsible for our doing. And I think that's not common in university context, if you're not in the student union or whatever. So with EUniWell, people can, without many barriers, engage actively and do something that they want to do. Like in Cologne, for example, where I'm studying, we have a very active local student board, and it's quite easy for them actually to engage and have events that are also coordinated only by students. And this is also a challenge, I would say, because this is not the case at every university at the minute. So we need, as said, to have these equal bare minimum standards across the university, where we say this is possible at every university. Of course, regarding the legal requirements nationally, because that's a great problem or issue or challenge we have. But still, those are benefits taken from EUniWell, and also its holistic approach to well-being makes it also having a mobility with purpose. The purpose is always well-being, regarding summer schools or winter schools or international courses. That's not what every alliance has European-wide. So those are just some points maybe regarding benefits, but also challenges added to what we said before.
Thank you. So the keywords are incentives, engagement. Very good. Thank you very much. Panna, would you like to also expand on this?
Definitely. I share my opinion with Sarah. I believe that one of the many benefits that EUniWell has for students is the experience and the new skills one learns. And in regards to challenges, I believe that there should be a bare minimum, something that all universities can agree on, a basic need that students might have for participation. Now, it's understandable that each of the partner universities do function differently. They have different governance and they have different rules, but how you get to that bare minimum is completely all right to be different, but getting there would be the aim. And in some universities, due to the increased responsiveness of the institution, the local engagement is much better in comparison to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Pan. So may I ask just a bare minimum of what?
Well, in every aspect. Let's say student participation at a local board level, at a student board level, and the criteria that need to be met at each institution for students and by students.
Thank you. Okay. So minimal criteria for being able to engage and participate
Definitely.
in the activities. Thank you very much. Just by way of inviting you to the, into the discussion, let me pose a question. In my introduction, I mentioned, which is again a well-worn statement, that students are the key to the future. And because they will be the future educators, researchers, developers, and basically the healers of us, our doctors who will heal us. Now, all of these professions, believe it or not, that requires a certain self-sacrificing commitment. So selfishness is not the best word here. It's not something that, it's a self-sacrifice. Being an educator, being a medical doctor or a nurse or a researcher, spending extra hours. My question is to all the young people, and to you particularly, how do you see our generation, or your generation? Are you willing to put this sacrifice into this commitment, level of commitment? From what I have seen so far, we have seen amazing commitment from our students. But we tend to speak about the Z generation. There's a societal transition. How do you see yourselves, you students? Are you willing to put in the commitment that we have often see from members of the student board? Question to the general public, general audience. Would you like to respond? Yes, I see some hands over there.
Well, I think the question is partially at least already answered by us sitting here. I think if we were not ready to commit and to put in the self-sacrifice that is necessary, we wouldn't be here. For a lot of us, that means taking away the time from studying. We have the local representative from, I think from here, who then by the time everyone else went out to drink, went home and did his studies because he did not have the time to do it earlier this week. I think a lot of us are doing a lot of things here, but the real work is when we're at home, and us being here and being able to contribute in a meaningful way means that we put in the hours before we come here. For me, for example, I was engaged in the university politics side before I joined EUniWell. For me, that meant putting my studies on hold for a year at least. And I've met so many people who are maybe also not involved in the EUniWell, but in general, like from our generation, that are so willing to put in the work and so willing to put in the sacrifice just to see some change, because they're so engaged and so motivated to have something happen and to move something and to be part of something bigger. So far from the people that I've met, I would say definitely everyone is very much willing to put in the sacrifice and the work.
So you can already see the benefit of this sacrifice also.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Positive message. Also, there was someone raising the hand.
Yes, hello. This is Sophia from Constance. I totally agree with Dominique, because we are all people engaged, and this is extra time for us. This is not our main job. Our main job is studying, and we are here during the week, not able to go to the university to study right now. So I completely agree. Something I want to add, what I'm missing right now in the discussion, is the support from the office or from EUniWell for our students, because of course the work we're doing is the engagement, but as I said, it's not our primarily job. So the support from the office is really important for us to be able to have effective events or have engagement in the university, which is going well, because only as students we cannot reach everyone. We do not know everything. The cooperation with the students and the office, with the ICs and everything, this is really important for us to do our job in a good way, because of course we do not know everything. And someone who works for EUniWell for a long time, also regarding the first question you asked, because students are always changing, and like positions are changing. I recently got this position. I do not know everything about EUniWell. Some people who work for many years in this position, they have more knowledge which can assist me in doing a better local engagement. So this is also important for us. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much on reflecting on the benefits. Thank you. Probably there is time for, maybe I'm asking Graham, a quick rounds around the panel? Great. So let me, again, do the same round, okay? To Jose. Actually, our experience with Murcia is that your engagement with the student is really particularly strong and very successful. That's what we saw when we visited during Rector's Assembly also, and ever since. So is there a secret? What's your secret?
No, there is not a secret. Or maybe yes, there is a secret. The secret is, as I said before, as yesterday said Marcel, you need to believe in things that you do. Is crucial in several aspects in which you develop your own experience. You need to believe in the thing you do. Second, it's very, very important to be conscious that you are not alone, that you are part of a team in which different people develop their particular role. Is necessary to be near the people that have clever ideas and have the strength to develop it. It's important, I think, with a rector, vice-rector, coordinator, etc. And that people need to believe in the project also. And especially in the case of University of Murcia, we have all experience with a strong board of students. Since I see me in myself 30 years ago or 35 years ago when we was a student, and our board, our representative as a student, were very, very, very strong, and this day is also strong. So if you have in your university a full of people, a hand of people that a student with compromise with the goal, the aims of their own university is the best way in order you realize your own objectives. And maybe the secret of the engagement of our students, not only in EUniWell but in other projects that we have, the secret is the strength that our student representative. Maybe.
Thank you, Jose. So again, faith in our mission and our project, and very strong local student involvement. Thank you. So Peter, now EUniWell, ever since the beginning, we stressed the stratification of our local and broad, somewhat broader, and even, across the Europe. So there's a stratification in our overarching mission. So my question to you is that how do you see that the students could extend from the local governance to alliance-wide and maybe even beyond? How can you assist them? What kind of strategy you might have in enhancing this mission for extension from the local governance all the way to European governance?
I think in a complex structure like EUniWell, communication becomes more and more important. So you know what you are part of and how you could interact with others. So I think that's the key really to get more out of EUniWell. And then I think we need to go beyond the project and really take seriously what we say. This is not a project, it's something more. So that means that when we meet our sort of regional associations and the students, we say that it's not only what is financed by EUniWell that is part of EUniWell, but whenever we do something that has to do with the voice of well-being, it is part of EUniWell. Mostly it's financed otherwise, by free work or by other projects, etc. These are the best projects that are financed by someone else. As a rector, that's my opinion. But so I think that we need to take more seriously that it's not a project, it is something more, and then to communicate all the things that we do as part of. So it's using the label, using the framework more frequently, and that will take some time, I think. because we have several layers of belonging, as you said. But I also think that what you said, so I think also that when you enhance that view, that EUniWell is really something that we do and develop and are proud of, then working with that becomes worth more. So when you put it in your CV and it's well known, you will be credited for that. And that is the sort of the academic money is accreditation, that you get sort of acknowledged for what you have done. Then you get some payment, but that's the sort of really hard value money that you can take with yourself out in work, out to another university. But I think also that we could perhaps do that a little bit more visible with students. I was impressed when we were in England and they had badges for student engagement, and giving that kind of visible accreditation for this high-class work that you are doing would also, I think, enhance, because it's extracurricular. It takes a lot of, I don't think it's a good idea to write it into the curricula, but you could also make extracurricular accreditation, and that could be something that we could do together to also enhance the feeling of a community.
Thank you, Peter. Excellent ideas. Actually, so the key here is to be ready to recognize and incorporate issues and activities into the well-being mission and agenda. And also, I like this visible acknowledgement. I think this could be something to be put in practice in our EUniWell activities. So finally, a question to our students. So all our universities, now 12, there's a nice potpourri of colorful and different universities. Even our faculties are different. The local university missions are slightly different, not to mention the students themselves. Really, I think you mentioned more than 300,000 students are basically addressed in this alliance. So this is amazing numbers. So how do you see and how can you manage, or how can you incorporate and utilize this diversity to your benefit? Yes, please.
Actually, with the badges, I know that one of our work packages is working on that, by the way, so it will be implemented. No, that's fine. So, actually, what you were saying, Miklos, is really important, and I think it is a challenge to manage it, and I don't have to tell you that as a board member, or Beatrix, or whoever, it is a challenge. It will be a challenge, but it's also a challenge that you can learn from, and I see it more than a possibility, because there's so many point of views coming together, but also different work ethics, for example, that we have to manage. But I think what is really nice about it is that we get so many different knowledges from the universities. So the student board now is in a process where we said that we want more participation from the student unions and parliaments across our partner universities. So it's so-called professionalization, if you want to. And we see that this is a good benefit, because then we can manage also the diverse legal requirements of our partner universities. So I think also for the student unions themselves, it is a great benefit to have the EUniWell Student Board as a matter of exchanging knowledge and experiences, because they can also use EUniWell as a kind of learning environment for themselves. So it's not only good for us having a diversity, but definitely also for others, and that's really great presented in the student board at the minute.
So it's a beneficial challenge.
Exactly.
Thank you. Pana, would you like to reflect?
Definitely. I completely agree that this, let's say, colorfulness of perspectives is definitely a benefit, as especially as a student board in decision makings. While having different individuals from different backgrounds, they clear up things that one might not see, which is very beneficial, and it increases inclusiveness. And this helps us access and address more students. And I definitely also see it as a positive aspect of this colorfulness of differences.
Thank you very much, Pana. So inclusivity and, I guess, respect for others, it's a key word here. So finally, by wrapping up, first of all, I'd like to truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank the panelists around the table, thank all of you, particularly the students who contributed with your opinion. Thank you for this openness. And just by way of conclusion, I really would like to mention and strengthen our faith in our students. Faith, you mentioned many times, faith in our mission, but we should have faith in our students. Indeed, they are the future, key to the future, and we must not be afraid of them, but look upon them as true partners with whom we can walk hand in hand, just as we will do it this afternoon on the El Camino. And the message to the students is that the engagement and the sacrifice is really worth it on the long run. It's truly worth it. And the challenges that we face, all of us, you students, we as instructors, are not to be afraid of, but ones that can be used to our benefit and to our advantage. So once again, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for this panel discussion. Thank you.
So thank you very much to this panel and also the first panel of the morning. We now have a coffee break. I'm going to ask you to be back in the room at 11:45, so we'll be a little bit shorter than was on the schedule to keep us on time for the rest of the morning. So if you could be back in 15 minutes, that'd be great. Thank you. And a picture will be at the end of the next session. We'll have a group picture at the end of the next session.
Okay, after these very interesting roundtables with our associated partners, and thank you again for that, and also with the students and all of this very valuable input, I think that basically led the way towards discussing our next very, very important points as well, on academic freedom, research security, or security of anything basically we are doing, and then moving on to the new Commission's, very complex multi-annual financial frameworks and so on, everything that has been going on there. And the third topic let's see whether we will be able to address it, is on collaboration. And, how can member institutions leverage EUniWell? This was also something that the students raised in their intervention. So how can we get the engagement going? These are the 4 points. I'd like to begin, since we discussed this yesterday as well in the closed session we discussed academic freedom and what this entails at the moment, what challenges we experience, and also, what perhaps for some contradictions as well that we sometimes feel with regard to, where the money sits, where the different, let's say, foci are now also within the European Commission, and so on. So on Monday, when we attended this meeting, Choose Europe for Science, I think Jean-François and also you, Peter, mentioned that as well. The social sciences and the humanities were not mentioned so often. And also there was lots of talk about deep tech and AI and, quantum computing, more those topics that are very relevant to Europe, but at the same time, perhaps this is also a one-sided view of what we can do. Because if we look at EUniWell's mission, and that's why we have chosen the different thematic arenas as well. It covers all of the disciplines that exist so far, and probably will help to make others thrive as well. So I'd like to begin. We like to begin with this discussion on the critical topic of academic freedom. Yesterday, we decided that we wanted to have a statement on academic freedom from EUniWell with, the EUniWell mission added to it. So that's something we want to do. And I throw this out here already so that you know that will be coming. But perhaps we can also have the discussion going again by very briefly perhaps coming up with what all of you think academic freedom is and scientific freedom is at the moment. I asked ChatGPT as well. I can give you the definition and also the context that I get through ChatGPT. Not bad, actually. So, but perhaps for everybody of you in your different roles, in your different responsibilities, on the basis of your scientific and other backgrounds that you have, what is it at the moment? What are the challenges? Because I'd really like you to get involved, engaged now. What do you struggle with in terms of monetary aspects, in terms of the geopolitical challenges as well, the situation in the US, which we discussed yesterday as well briefly. So what is it? What is at stake right now? Also, Jean-François yesterday mentioned the situation, or China, and you know, where you can also achieve success, but perhaps with a different view of what academic freedom is, if that exists at all. So where are we here? What is it that we are actually defending from your point of view, or living here as well at this space where we say Galicia is shining?
Yeah. So I don't have really...
oh, Alex, very
sorry,
good.
I don't
Thank
really
you.
have what... actually, what I want to say is that challenge that we have in the UK as a result of, freedom of speech, invasion of freedom of speech. I think what we are, at the moment, what is the most immediate hit is regarding research funding. So as you know, and I guess it's the same situation everywhere, we have academics working with US partners, and this doesn't necessarily have to be a research on EDI issues. It could be in a broader sense. So what we have seen is that we have experienced cuts, immediate cuts from US side, which of course affects the further research activity on those projects. So this is something that we have to deal with, because as an institution, not just the University of Birmingham, any UK institution now has to step in to provide additional funds when those funds are not there. But I think most importantly, this is definitely really affecting the way how our research is then developing, because if we're cutting funding, not us, but the US is cutting funding for academics working on the EDI issues, that really leaves a huge hole. And that would mean that the European countries have to step in and provide that funding so that we ensure that those areas are still being researched and that we have the academic excellence. So I think this will be something that is immediately affecting us, and it is, of course, an issue that I can think of. But I can think of many other things, but this is just something immediate I wanted to share.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, given the global research support in a way, or how the US is sort of, or was, in a global network of research initiatives, we can safely say this affects us all, as you have just described. Definitely.
Jean-François.
Yeah, Jean-François.
Yes, Beatrix. Yesterday in our discussion, there is one aspect that we did not really tackle in our discussion. It might be actually the fact that INALCO is suffering more than other institutions, but I'm not sure about that, is the fact that we have now many countries who are closing themselves to academic research, especially again on social and human sciences. And they are also trying to protect or to dictate the image of their country outside. Obviously, you can imagine which kind of country I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But for the first time ever, we have seen in France, I wouldn't say a multiplication, but the fact that we have, at least in the past 2 years, 4 to 5 cases of what we call muzzle procedure, you know, that countries through embassies or through organization are attacking academic because they are doing research on their country. And this is something quite new, which put stress on the procedures we have to protect our own researchers, because I don't know in Germany how is it working, but we have in France what is called a functional protection, that we can pay for the lawyers, and because it could be a long procedures. And we are about to actually reflect on what we can do to protect researchers. It's more easy when those researchers are part of the permanent faculty, but you can imagine that for PhD or for some people sometimes who are not exactly within the institution, it's very difficult and sometimes impossible to have a real protection for them. So it's a trend that is not really good for academic freedom at the moment. But it's coming with what has been described with other kind of intervention from our own government sometime on academic freedom. But it's a trend that we are seeing. But again, it might be because INALCO is working on such countries also more than other universities sometimes. But
yeah, of course. Please.
So, as you may be aware of the situation of currently the universities in Hungary, or at least most of the universities, there are only 2 exemptions. We cannot receive any kind of EU funds due to the sanctions which was voted by the European Commission, and we are really thankful for EUniWell that you continued supporting us through that hard period, and we could continue collaboration here. So beside of that, this is a very big challenge for our university. So basically, it's a challenge for the students, for the PhD students, for the postdocs, and for the faculty as well, because we cannot take part in such a great program such as Erasmus, in mobility programs. We can function as a receiving institution, which is a great thing, but we cannot send our faculty and our students to mobility programs. And in addition to that, it is a really big problem for us that we are also unable to receive any kind of not mobility Erasmus funds, such as partnership programs like KEA 220, and we cannot apply for Horizon funds. So basically it is a really challenging period for us, but hopefully it will be solved soon.
I have to answer back, of course, and ask a question here, because, I mean, of course, we have discussed this, as you know, also in the board. There's a reason for why the European Commission decided to put the ban on Hungary, and on why Hungary cannot receive that money. So that relates to academic freedom, doesn't it?
Well, to be honest, I can understand that there can be such a sanction for a country, but the reason for the ban was that the European Commission told that in some board of trustees, when there was a change between the public and the private situation of a university, in a board of trustees there were some politicians. But regarding Semmelweis University, we didn't have any politician, and when there was this change between the public and the private, that was requested by the university and by the higher leadership of the university, because we wanted to keep our academic freedom. And to be honest, I understand that, but an 18-year-old student who is willing to travel, who is willing to explore the world, if he or she is a victim of that political situation, it's not good. But in addition to that, I understand, and we analyze the situation. So, but we are struggling with that still.
Yeah, absolutely. That I know. Jean-François, directly on this, and then it's Alessandra.
Yeah,
and Miklos as well.
I mean, when we are starting to monitor very carefully now, I think within the European Association of Universities, the level of academic freedom. And well, I have just in front of me the latest academic freedom index for Europe, and there is a country where I think, and it's following what Beatrix was saying, the only country in Europe where you have a real drop in academic freedom is Hungary. And it's coming from, all kind of things. It's the power to nominate also directors, which is extremely important, and the kind of subject that you can tackle. For sure, you at the Medicine University, it's maybe less obvious, but for other universities, it's a real problem. And we are also, as European partners, also encountering difficulties sometimes to work with Hungarian university on certain subject. So it is difficult for you, but it is also understandable that for the European Commission, they are also taking some very tough measures against countries within Europe who are not respecting a core value, as we heard on Monday.
If I may answer, I completely agree with you, and I also think that, and Semmelweis University and all the delegation and also the rector thinks that academic freedom is the most important part of the work of a university. And regarding that, I think that if we are talking about the academic freedom of the research, so as one example, at Semmelweis University we have the higher decision-making board, which is the Senate. And it is only the Senate which is elected among the members, the faculty members, the student members of the Semmelweis University. So they are the only ones who can elect the rector. So it's not like a decision of the government or the decision of the Prime Minister or the Minister of Higher Education. So basically, I think that maybe there are some institutions where the academic freedom is in danger. But Semmelweis University, I doubt that it will be in danger, and hopefully in the future, because I think that politics should step away from the higher education institutions, from all the sides.
Yeah, I think we really like that you raised this question, that you mentioned this, and that you say it in such a way, because it's very important for this community to hear it exactly from you, given the circumstances and what we have seen. So I thank you for that. That's important, and I mean, we've discussed this. On the other hand, and this is something that Jean-François just said, if you have governance structures, you have to make sure that, they adhere to the values that are still defining science as well. And if this is doubted, then I think at least it's important not only to discuss it, but to then see that, let's say, a governing body like the European Commission takes very severe decisions, and then it's your task to communicate this to your students why this is the case. I think that's also the responsibility and the leadership that needs to be taken on. So I think that's something we probably have to discuss further. Miklos, you had something on exactly that point, or Alexandra, do you want to refer to that? Alexandra first, and then Miklos. Jean-François.
I want to move to a more general point.
Yeah.
Is about the two concepts of academic freedom and research security. Because I think that at the moment we have to discuss both together, because we have to find a balance between the two concepts. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, at this moment, in this geopolitical situation, it's very difficult to speak just about academic freedom without consider research security. Mm-hmm. But I want to stress that freedom is not isolation. This is important to remember, because in this world that is interconnected. The environment in which research takes place is more complex than ever, and so this is important to think about. So with the rise of global collaboration, advanced technologies, and geopolitical tension, research security has become an equally vital concern. Mm. So protecting the integrity of our work, ensuring it is not misused and misappropriated, and safeguarding sensitive knowledge are essential to sustaining both national interest and academic credibility. So, in my opinion, we have to try to find the balance between the two. And how to reach, yeah, this is important for institutions to work with all the community in order to learn about the opportunity and the risk together. Mm-hmm. And don't stop the research, don't stop the freedom, okay? Mm-hmm. But this means ensuring researchers that should be trained mm-hmm. and to identify and mitigate the risk. So again, we must learn, we must study, we must try to find the best way to overcome and to go ahead, because for us, for university is the academic freedom is oxygen, is our life.
Yeah, it's oxygen. I like that.
Yes,
a lot. Miklos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a very important topic, and I strongly embrace your suggestion and recommendation, Beatrix, to formulate a statement on behalf of EUniWell, the Alliance. But before we go into the specific details of the challenges that we face, including governance structures, financing, money movement, private enterprise interference, etc., I would recommend to make a strong statement about the principles that actually lie in the center of our mission. And this is nothing else than the pursuit of ontological truth, scientific truth. And the reason I would recommend it to incorporate in such a statement is because I see it as a special type of truth in comparison to any other type of truth. That is, we have a criterion, and that is the experiment, the scientific experiment, which lies in the academic rigor of our universities. So a short reminder, and not in authority, that's the key element. So academic truth or scientific truth is not dependent on authority, but it relies heavily on the experiment and academic rigor. So such a reminder to ourselves and to the decision makers of the importance of this commitment, I think would be very important.
Yes, I like that a lot. Thank you for that comment. Also, that our quest for truth, whatever truth means in the different disciplines, because for me, of course, nothing can be neutral, but that's because of my background. But I think the rigor and the fairness, fair data aspects and everything that you've mentioned, that's very important. And that needs to be skilled. So I'd like to come back to something that Alessandra said, and also the balancing. But let's first collect perhaps a few more statements. None of you still has replied to my question, what academic freedom for you is. Mm-hmm. None of you so far. Yeah, the oxygen.
I agree with that.
I like that, yeah.
But I also will say the beauty of our job.
Yeah.
And this is something that the student always asks, what did you find in your job? Did you expect what you find in your job? And the beauty of our job of being university professors is actually the fact that we have an academic freedom. What does this mean? Mm-hmm. To be able to select the research question we address, to be able to answer those research questions the way we want. We may be wrong, we may be right, but we choose the way, the way to disseminate the result of our research exactly in the way we want. So I think it's really important what we study, how we speak about and be able to say it without having any restrictions. So maybe it's an answer, one
Very
possible
good,
answer.
Yeah. Thank you. Celine. And then Sarah.
Yes, thank you. To complete what Georgia just said, I think that the freedom of choosing the topic we are working on is really very important, working on long-term and fundamental questions. Mm-hmm. So it means also that researchers can take some risk in their research. Mm-hmm. And one example for the moment is the development of RNA vaccines, so in the viruses. So the people working on this topic had been working for many years, and they were dealing with many technical issues without many financial support until the pandemics came. Mm-hmm. And then we had money to support this development. And I think that it's a very useful example to see that we must allow the researchers to choose their topic and take risk, even if it takes time to obtain some results.
Yeah. Sarah.
So I would add, actually, that from a student perspective, I think academic freedom also relates to mobility offers and having the possibility to do research and academic actions abroad and exchanging. And I think that's also something related to EUniWell, and that was one of our core values. So as long as we are able to do it, we have the academic freedom, but I think it's also something we should really care about, and that's something really precious. And looking at other countries such as America at the minute, where academic freedom and mobility, that includes this, is in danger, I think we really should rely on our values here with mobility. And yes, also going back to the question Miklos asked in the panel discussion before about the diversity of our alliance, I think that's also academic freedom, actually, that we can come together from different backgrounds, from different contexts, countries with different backgrounds, and talk together about academics, about research, about these matters' well-being that we're able to raise. And that would mean academic freedom, I think, from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Here, I got the mic. I would also like to raise the issue of who we are here for. Doing research, discussions on academic research or academic freedom often tend to sort of limit themselves to the problems that are raised here, that are important, of course, and necessary. But it also, I think we also need to contain the aspect of the communities that we work in, the people that we work for, and that we increasingly want to be part of what we do. We're working right now developing programs for citizen science, education in citizen science within the Alliance, with the perspective of epistemic rights. That people have a right to know, have a right to take part of scientific knowledge and to build better society from it. And the way to do that, one way of doing it is to increase the ways with which we can make a stronger participation of local communities and the people who live there. And in a statement like that, I would really like to have there will be many wishes to have formulations in a statement like that, but not forgetting that the academic freedom is really reliant on the local communities that we work on, both on an alliance level, but also locally in our own communities.
Yeah, I like that, and this goes further. Relates to what Georgia said on dissemination, because this is something we have to do, but at the same time also engaging, and not just say, we just transfer and therefore we are the center of everything. It's just what we try to do here today with also our associated partners. That's very important. You had one question, you as well. I think it's not working, so now it is. You need the other mic.
Yes?
Yes,
Now it's
very good.
Okay. So, yeah, academic freedom, in a way, it is a process. So it's like not like a stoned concept, because we saw how fragile it can be, even though like certain countries, like we spoke about US, could have some level of academic freedom, but certain political shift can actually affect it and have the consequences that was not even expected. So I think it is, in a way, a process, and it's important for everyone, not just to only enjoy it, but also to protect it as a process and take their role, like take their responsibility to safeguard this freedom on the level they are. So in academia, students, like everyone, like citizens, so because it's one of the principles to live in inclusive democratic society.
Yeah. That's interesting. So in a way, what you're saying is that we have to reassure ourselves of this in the context where we are in right now, because this is a special context. So what does that mean in our context with all the contradictions that also Alexandra mentions, and also the balancing that is necessary? But at the same time, I mean, there are some fundamental values that have to go with us in this process, I would say, that are just not negotiable, because otherwise we end up where we are right now in the US, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. In my opinion, academic freedom has at least three different aspects. One is the freedom of institutions, of higher education institutions, to decide in terms of studies and in terms of research and in terms of resources, material and personal resources. In the second term, I think academic freedom is freedom of teachers and researchers in order to decide what they research, of course with the rigor of the studies, the way in they transmit the knowledge in the classroom. And in the third aspect, I think the freedom, academic freedom, is the freedom of students to choose the institutions where they want to study, to have mobility with freedom between the different institutions, and it's possible than some else, but I think it's important maintain the different levels, institution, teachers, researchers, and also students. That's the complex meaning of academic freedom, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
In the case, of course, in the case of the institution, the freedom of institutions to decide, one very, very important thing, of course, is the financial autonomy in order to decide, because autonomy or freedom without funds is not really freedom or autonomy. It's nothing.
Pasquale.
Talking after Antonio is
No.
You need you need the mic.
I'm sorry, but talking after Antonio is always a handicap, because he captures the whole essence of the idea. So I would like to stress on the second idea of Antonio. And I think what we do at academia essentially is we are seeking for knowledge. And the way to connect it with Miklos is we seek knowledge by means of scientific rigor. And for me, most important is without interference, or most important even, without fear. So I do think I would stress, I totally agree with Antonio about the first and the third point about the capability of students and teachers to choose which institution to go to, where to teach, where to research, and of course the first one about the resources, human resources, and also general resources you have, right? But I do think that the main stress of academic freedom is the process itself, the process of pursue knowledge by means of scientific rigor or with rigorous methodology, but without interference and, most important, without fear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like that, and I've written it down already. Might be a sentence. It will be a sentence. I like to challenge us all a bit more because I think there are a number of issues that Alessandra already touched upon with regard to the interface between scientific freedom on the one hand and security on the other, because on the way it's a balance. On the one hand, it's a balancing act. On the other hand, it's also sometimes perhaps a contradiction. Let's choose AI. Let's choose the AI Act. And the fact that the AI Act, at least at the moment, allows us, if we say it's for research, to do different things than when we use it for teaching, when we try to implement the AI Act at our university. I'm doing this at the moment. I'm in charge of the AI strategy at our university. And we have to build a course, and we've done this to train everybody with basics of AI. That's one thing. That's what you just have to do. Now, when you do research with AI, for AI, in AI, AI research, there are all these different perspectives. You know, the data issue is probably a different one than the one we think about when we, try to use ChatGPT, knowing at the moment we can't have it at our university. We all have single licenses, but we can't have it because of the AI Act. Now, this has severe consequences, I would say, on academic freedom in one way or another. So some colleagues ask, give us rules, tell us how to do this. AI researchers who've been there, I assume, at every university forever, and have done research in AI and machine learning, of course, in deep learning, and so on, because AI is just the overall framework. They will say, I don't want these regulations. You said without interference. So where are we here? What do we have to do? And all of us know, I think, how biased still at the moment the nurture and the nature, the nourishment that the algorithms got. They still are quite biased. So how do we deal with all of this, with these data questions? And with the quest for regulations and rules on the one hand, at the same time, we also need to test how AI works, also with regard to learning analytics and so on, when we deal with that in education. So where do we all stand there? Where do you see the challenges? Because I think it's nice and well, and now I mean this, to say academic freedom, it's getting more and more difficult, and we all know that cyber war is going on anyway. How data is influenced and is, let's say, used in a way that social media platforms, can't be neutral. I mean, they are not. And then I want to discuss social sciences and humanities afterwards. So who wants to start? Jean-François, you go first.
Yeah, I'm a little bit puzzled by our attempt to define academic freedom. The first time that we spoke about academic freedom in Europe was a long time ago. Yeah. It was defined in the Sorbonne in the 11th century. Then the great Humboldt University in Germany has a clear definition of what is academic freedom. And I think it is recognized as a universal principle. And as we said yesterday,
that's good.
I think at the European level, what it is recognized, it's that we have a difference among countries how it is recognized in our own constitution or in our own law. But on the principles, I think all Europeans agreed on what it is to have academic freedom. Mm-hmm. So to come back to our statement, if we do one, I think it's quite easy to go towards the EU text and EU declaration and to take, you know, a kind of a first paragraph or something like that, where we could all agree on what has been recognized at the European level, including at the Association of European Universities. I think that is, to my opinion, quite easy to do because we are part of the European Union and we recognize that. The tricky part is when it comes next with EUniWell, and with some new topics, like you said, Beatrix, for example, with artificial intelligence, for example, or if we have something to say about the values of the well-being, for example, does it tackle something different, which is not in the general principle, for example? Or do we have to say something about the situation in Hungary, for example?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is the tricky part. This is the difficult part for us to say in a statement, for example. But the first part, to my opinion, I think we should not negotiate on that and say, well, it could be that or it could be that. No, I think we have some universal principle on that.
Yeah. Mas, Miklos.
Thank you. Let me respond briefly on this, your comment on what is allowed and what is not allowed. I don't think that freedom is the lack of any rules or regulations. There are certain ethical rules and boundaries that we must never cross. Let me remind ourselves, like the Nuremberg Code or the Helsinki Declaration on experiments on humans, which we face often in medical types of experiments. So freedom doesn't mean that you can do anything. And I think in your relation to AI, it's particularly important to chart these. I think for us as a community who is interested in pursuing the ontological truth and pursue research, it is the common agreement and the abidement to acceptance of these rules and the practice of these rules. And finally, I just want to make a distinction here, since you mentioned AI several times. I think it's very important for us to make a distinction between the tool and the objective. In my view, AI is more of a tool than the objective itself. And if we can part these very important issue, I think we can use AI to our benefit.
Yes and no. For me, AI is one of the technologies that is currently, AI is the overall term for machine learning, deep tech, and so on. Then we have biotechnology, so other technologies emerging, going around, and interfacing with one another. So for me, a tool would be ChatGPT, and so on, as a tool. So, but yeah, I see what you mean. Senja.
Can I also reflect that I fully agree that academic freedom is also a notion that could be analyzed and assessed within the evolution since the centuries. But then we can find some parallels with the academic integrity as well. So using the academic freedom in a more wider scope as academic integrity. I agree that maybe AI could be a tool or instrument on interference in that integrity or academic freedom. We can see now, we just heard from the EUA conference, annual conference that was in Riga, concerning the management crisis in different universities concerning cyber attacks. It is also also attacks on academic freedom, because we don't know how these data could be used and what algorithm could be used within the usage and some risks for academic freedom. All that issues could be assessed. We are humanitarians, but now the question for the natural science, for the IT specialists, how these... From another side, I think that we can use the chain of the concepts that are wider or more general. Academic freedom, academic integrity, sustainability, and of course well-being. So I think this is the core element, and all that concepts are really connected between themselves.
Yeah, thank you. So would you say, coming back to this research security topic, for example, that if we aim for sovereignty in the way we try to use our data, for example, and that we see and also move towards open science, there could be issues at some point, because I think a certain amount of sovereignty would probably not make us use a cloud provided by Amazon. We would rather go for our own cloud at our own universities, perhaps shared by the EUniWell consortium. Perhaps that's something we would do. At the same time, would we have the finances, resources to be able to do this? Does that affect what we've just been discussing or not? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There is a project to make an European cloud.
Yeah, there is.
Yes, there is, because we need many researchers. I think that one country alone is not able to give an answer to the player, the international player that are very. It's difficult to have the same performance at the moment of the international player. Is a very problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So with regard to cooperation, then, this is exactly the path. Yeah.
Maybe to try a model, a network model, so is to share and to have some points that are connected together. I don't know the details, but I know that they are studied, they are working on, because it's absolutely important.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we are cooperating as well, to share those resources as well, and also to, I think this cooperation is also a statement for the academic freedom that we'd like to stress and to bring forward and just live as a principle, and we will be doing this. So I think the students mentioned also they call it skilling. I would call it acquiring competencies. I prefer the term competencies for various reasons. But that's, of course, something, I mean, you know, all of us keep claiming that we do research-based education all the time, don't we? And with that, of course, hopefully come all of those values of academic freedom. And if you do a science-based course or a challenge-based course, then this will happen anyway. So would you say this is happening in the skilling process? When did you hear about academic freedom for the very first time in your courses? Because we seem to assume now this is, and that's the final point I'd like to raise, because the skilling and the competencies, there is, of course, a EU competencies framework that we could use and that we are using. So, Sarah, what's the question to you, I guess, to the students?
I just wanted to make sure no one else wanted to say something. So, no, I personally heard from it first in my courses in adult education and organizational studies, because we also are very closely relating some of our research and what we're learning to the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals. And we know that in EUniWell they're also important for us. And I think that's also another connection point. And you were talking about connection points and like these chains of how we're connecting well-being with everything and that. And I think there is a connection already, as you said. But coming back also to ChatGPT, I think academic freedom, and that's also what Migros said, is also trying out those things and just learning from them. So I would say also critically evaluating yourself after using it is part of it. And yes, that's...
It needs to be trained, though, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when we created, our quality system in teaching and learning, we had to do a new teaching mission. And at the very part of the teaching mission, the very first part, it talks about both democracy, academic freedom, and so on. So it's mentioned there. That was 5 years ago when we did this at the University of Cologne. And we were just like, yeah, we put it here, you know, we take it for granted anyway. And yes, we do it, but we meant it at the time. And now, 5 years later, you know, it's so important that it's there because we can, I mean, we have it as a criterion, and that's something, you know, we mentioned in the discussion as well, to really say, yes, we're safeguarding this. Because not just we believe in it, but also we have to. So I think reassuring ourselves also in a written format, that's why we're discussing this, and also with some measures, is I think a very important thing, and that's why we have decided, and now to perhaps conclude this, unless there aren't any other comments, that's why we have decided yesterday in the board to write a statement where we use what is the academic freedom, or what the principle really is as a starting point, with drawing on, Jean-François, you said it, on you know, what is there out there anyway and has been defined really centuries ago, and then move on to what this means for EUniWell and what would we like to do. Perhaps it's also possible to come up with some little programs also for our corporations, the other corporations we have. You know, we briefly discussed, do we also provide platforms for people to store their data, or do we have opportunities for people under pressure, you know, to come to a EUniWell community and also to be there in a mobile kind of setting. So that is something we discussed as well as concrete measures, also under the spell of the Monday event in Paris, Choose Europe for Science. Is this something we want to look at? There are huge programs now that are being launched on this. So, but we now agree we're going to have the statements. This has to be probably written within this month. I don't know how we do it, but we'll try to do it. But we have to probably do it fast to get that kind of statement out. And we also said, I think, Pasquale, that was a point you mentioned yesterday as well, that we should be leading this process also as European universities, to give a model for perhaps for You for All as the Alliance of Alliance, as it's sometimes called, but really lead the way there. That was also something we discussed. If nobody says no, then we do it, we try to do it, and then of course circulate the draft so that people can comment on it. Of course the rectors can comment on it so that it aligns with their missions and so on. Okay, so I think, because we are getting ready for another very important event to strengthen Europe and European values and to celebrate Europe today, because tomorrow is Europe Day. It's, as I said, it's a very important week. The conclave starts today, then tomorrow we celebrate the end of the Second World War. It's a bit of a contradiction to say celebration of the end of a war, but I think we do that. And Germany has a chancellor, so that is also something that might be important for Europe in those days. So thank you very much for this very important discussion we had, slightly different from how we have done the Rectors' Assembly so far, at least parts of it. But I think it's important in those times that we all hear what people are thinking, what's on our mind, especially with regard to academic freedom and how we are under threat at the moment. So thank you very much for this discussion. I now hand over to you for the final words on this, and I'll officially I think already close the Rectors' Assembly with this. And thank you very much again for everything you've been doing for this wonderful event. These 3 days, really, we were allowed to be here. You hosted us like kings and queens, and you know, this diversity we share, and also the stories we can share, the way we can be together, the openness we have. With the openness we used yesterday to discuss also different difficult points in EUniWell. I don't take this for granted. That's quite something thank you very much to the teams here for preparing this wonderful event, to you, Maria Jose and Belen, and of course to you, Rector, for having us. That's fantastic. Also to the teams at the office for organizing everything, for organizing, you know, the Rectors' Assembly in the structural parts. Graham, thank you very much for this, for preparing us all with all the memos and all the written materials that we discussed. So that's it for today. The next Rectors' Assembly will be in Cologne to celebrate also EUniWell's 5th anniversary. Thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, all of you. Well, we've reached the end, more or less, because we still have to do a small piece of way this afternoon in order to achieve the Obradoiro Square as real pilgrims. But this will be the work for this afternoon. As Beatriz said, me too, I would like to thank Maria Jose, Belén, Chema, our coordinator, and the entire staff of the university for organizing everything and making this event possible. I am sure that the fact that everyone enjoyed this their time and during these days is the best regard for them, but I think also they deserve a round of applause. Yeah. I thank also the Xunta de Galicia and the Galician Parliament for the support of this event, the support also financial, that is important too. Thank to these institutions. Thank all of you for attending this meeting and sharing these days with us. I think as it was said before, were very interesting both academically and also from the point of view of the personal connection and personal relationship between us. I think getting to know each other better and strengthening our personal relationships will contribute to achieving the goals of our consortium. And no more else. I wish you a safe return home and would like to remind you that you are all welcome to return whenever you want to Santiago de Compostela. We will always waiting for you with open arms in the end of the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and as Beatrice said, we prepare a celebration of Europe's Day with 2 days in advance because the day is the 9th May. One more.
Something's happening.
Yeah. Sit down. Sit down. Okay.
Sit down.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, as I said, on 9 May every year we commemorate Europe Day, a celebration of peace and unity in Europe. This date marked the anniversary, as everybody know of the Schuman Declaration, a historic proposal made by Robert Schuman in 1950, which is the origin of what is now the European Union. The declaration contained two statements that I think remain essential to this day. Schuman said, the world peace cannot be safeguarded without the making of creative efforts proportionate to the dangers which threaten it. Today, 65 years after that historic declaration, we must continue to unite our efforts to ensure peace. It is time to express once again our full support and solidarity with the Ukrainian people, represented here by our colleagues and friends from Taras Shevchenko University. In the very heart of Europe, Ukraine and its people are enduring the horrors of a war that has now lasted for 3 years. Schuman also said, Europe will not be made all at once or according to a single plan. It will be built through concrete achievements which first create a de facto solidarity. Universities, and particularly the Erasmus Plus program, are a magnificent example of these concrete achievements, of that de facto solidarity that has become an essential element of the idea of Europe. Our university has a long history of participating in the Erasmus Plus program, welcoming hundreds of students each year. Therefore, at this celebration of the Europe Day, we wanted the students to be the real protagonists of this event and the best ambassadors of the idea of Europe. Erasmus students from 7 EUniWell universities are represented here today with us: Cologne, Florence, Linnaeus, Murcia, Nantes, Semmelweis, and Taras Shevchenko University. Unfortunately, the students from Constance University we had this year only came for the first semester and have already returned home. I'm sorry. The Erasmus program, which has been so important to forge a European identity, is already reality. The consolidation of European universities and the implementation of the European degree are the new challenges for the European higher education area. As Goethe once said, Europe was born on pilgrimage, and from Compostela, the destination of the Jacobean pilgrimage since the 10th century is worth recalling the words of the Pope today. We don't have Pope. It's the time to recall the words of John Paul II, the words that he addressed here in Santiago in 1982, words that are engraved in the Santiago Cathedral, and I think remain so relevant today. The Pope said, Europe, return to yourself, be yourself, discover your origins, revive your roots, experience again those authentic values that made your history glorious and your presence in other continents beneficial. I think these words are really actual today. Thank you very much. But it's not the end, because I invite our students to accede to the microphone and to deliver his words in this day. Please.
entschlossen, den mit der Gründung der europäischen Gemeinschaften eingeleiteten Prozess der europäischen Integration auf eine neue Stufe zu heben, schöpfend aus dem kulturellen, religiösen und humanistischen Erbe Europas, aus dem sich die unverletzlichen und unveräußerlichen Rechte des Menschen sowie Freiheit, Demokratie, Gleichheit und Rechtsstaatlichkeit als universelle Werte entwickelt haben.
Rammentando l'importanza storica della fine della divisione del continente europeo e la necessità di creare solide basi per l'edificazione dell'Europa futura, confermando il proprio attaccamento ai principi della libertà, della democrazia e del rispetto dei diritti dell'uomo e delle libertà fondamentali, nonché lo Stato di diritto.
Som bekräftar den vikt som det fäster vid de grundläggande sociala rättigheterna så som dessa fastställs i den europeiska sociala stadgan som undertecknades i Turin den 18 oktober 1961 och i 1989 års gemenskapsstadga om arbetstagares grundläggande sociala rättigheter. Som önskar stärka solidariteten mellan sina folk samtidigt som det representerar deras historia, kultur och traditioner.
Deseando fortalecer el funcionamiento democrático y eficaz de las instituciones, con el fin de que puedan desempeñar mejor las misiones que les son encomendadas, dentro de un marco institucional único. Resueltos a lograr el refuerzo y la convergencia de sus economías y a crear una unión económica y monetaria que incluya, de conformidad con lo dispuesto en el presente tratado y en el Tratado de Funcionamiento de la Unión Europea, una moneda estable única.
Déterminés à promouvoir le progrès économique et social de leur peuple, compte tenu du principe du développement durable et dans le cadre de l'achèvement du marché intérieur, et du renforcement de la cohésion et de la protection de l'environnement, et à mettre en œuvre des politiques assurant des progrès parallèles dans l'intégration économique et dans les autres domaines, résolus à établir une citoyenneté commune aux ressortissants de leur pays.
Resoltos a desenvolver unha política exterior e de seguridade común que inclúa a definición progresiva dunha política de defensa común que podería conducir a unha defensa común de acordo coas disposicións do artigo 42, reforzando así a identidade e a independencia europeas co fin de fomentar a paz, a seguridade e o progreso en Europa e no mundo.
Azzal az elhatározással, hogy miközben biztosítják népeik védelmét és biztonságát, megkönnyítik a személyek szabad mozgását azáltal, hogy a szerződés és az Európai Unió működéséről szóló szerződés rendelkezésének megfelelően létrehoznak egy a szabadságon, a biztonságon és a jog érvényesülésén alapuló térséget.
Вирішили продовжувати процес створення дедалі тіснішого союзу між народами Європи, в якому рішення приймаються якомога ближче до населення, відповідно до принципу субсидіарності. З огляду на подальші кроки, які мають бути зроблені з метою просування європейської інтеграції.
Thank you very much. I think they are the really ambassadors of the idea of Europe. Thank you very much for your words. And to finish this celebration, we will hear the anthem of Europe by our musicians of our orchestra.
Now, please don't leave the room. We are going to have the last family picture. Those who are in this part of the room, please remain where you are and stand. Rectors, please get to the stairs. Those that are in that part of the room, please come here and fill that gap.
And the other for the photographer.